so funny. Hello. All right. Hi, everybody. Welcome, welcome. Thank you so much for coming back again. Thank you, Maria. What a wonderful day. So we are, hi, Mystifying Mark. What we've got today is some juicy new information because one of the things that I learned in my very early healing with radionics and deep frequency healing was that a principle that I really use in all areas of my life, which is if we got that a certain treatment was optimal for someone, we had to do that treatment first. Then we checked what was next. So part of what we have in our consciousness is that, oh, here, first do this. Okay, done, next. And we don't pay attention to that every minute, every day changes who we are, right? Every experience we have changes who we are. So since the last time we chatted with Maria, we've had a couple of months, we've had a couple of moons, and we've all transformed more. We've had the Lion's Gate, and we've had, well, Mercury's not retrograde anymore, but we've had a lot of really intense cosmic energies. And now we've had the last full moon until we're together at Stonehenge. So I'm going to share real quick with you guys our information and make sure that you can find Miss Maria if you would like to. So make sure if you're new, you subscribe below, you come to nanakasha.com, you get on the list so we can tell you about all the good things happening. And today, Maria and I are going to share with you a super exciting treat that we have coming up. So next week, we have a new moon show, and it's a very interesting new moon for a lot of reasons. So check that out. Whoops, okay, what's going on here? Oh, I think we started on the wrong one. Sorry about that. And then we also have our beautiful friend, Donna Stellhorn, our expert astrologer, and she's going to talk all about the eclipses, which is also going to be when we're together at Stonehenge. So the full moon is a lunar eclipse. And then a little bit after that, near to the end of the month is the solar eclipse, and they have some very special powers. So we look at that one and before we go there. So today we're talking to Maria again, and this is our new retreat coming up. We're going to share a little bit later with you. And here's Maria and I last year in Glastonbury. Make sure that you check Maria out. If you go to our page for the retreat, then for the Stonehenge retreat, there's a link on there to buy her book. There's all the videos we've done with her at the bottom, but this is where you find Maria if you want to go to her website to see the other things she's doing. I'm taking master dowsing classes from her. I've done Druid, I think it was called, a reading with her. So I highly recommend whatever she's doing, join it. So lots and lots and lots of wonderful things that we could say about Maria, but she's gotten this wisdom as a second generation Dowser. And if you don't really understand what that is, yes, using different tools to sense earth energies. However, it's way deeper than you can imagine. And it's a vast network of fascinating information that then connects us to the ancient world in these profound ways, because they understood the earth energies and they built structures there to amplify them, to harness the energy and everything else. So between her father and European master dowsers, Chinese geomants, she's become UK's leading authority on earth energies, ley lines. And she leads tours, as you know, to many sites. And she's an accomplished author of many books. This book is incredible. I work through it almost like a textbook because I take in some and then I just walk around with it. It's got interesting stories, ancient details, and then new conclusions. That's what I love about it. And one of the most interesting things is when we're together, Maria has, I think I asked you once, how many times have you been to Stonehenge? Is that I couldn't even imagine. You know, she has been there alone. She's been there with private groups. She's been there before there was a lot of guards and so on. She's tested the site with different scientists. She understands all the stones, how they were made, the energies in them, the deeper energies in the earth, what the place looked like, the goddess temples that were there. And then one of the most amazing things, which we're really going to weave into this retreat, because it's very important with the rise of the priestess, the rise of the sacred feminine, in everyone right now, that she discovered the Neolithic long-headed long-lost civilization of the British Isles, the long-skulled queen, which we will be calling on, which I know is very important in her life now. So it's a really profound moment as we find our own way to connect to ancient wisdom to create the new future. This is so wonderful to be able to be with someone who understands the sites, respects the energies as a druid, right? Has these mythical experiences, understands the legends, understands the history of how these places were discovered and excavated, and what's original and what's not original, and where you can sense energies to cleanse or to clear or to heal. And we'll be crawling into long barrows and doing all kinds of magical stuff. So as she studied Neolithic Britain and Bronze Age prehistory at Bath and Oxford, and she works very closely with Gaia's energies. She just did America's Stonehenge, which is really sounds amazing. I didn't get to go to that one. She's also a druid and follows the Celtic path, and she's written many diploma courses, like we mentioned. So these are just a few of the beautiful things that you have going on in your life, and skills you have, and wisdom that you carry. So thank you for who you are, what you're doing in the world, how you're sharing. I know you just went and did a big conference at Gaia. And so thank you again for coming to see us.
Oh, it's always a pleasure to be around your good grace, Nan. So thank you for having me back.
Yeah, absolutely. Hi, Chana Joy and Jillian and Susan. You guys say hi, say wherever you're from, and let us know if you have any specific questions for Maria. So with, where we are right now, with everything that's happened over the summer and getting ready to go into this really lunar eclipse, high moon, full moon, and this beautiful journey that we have, what kind of energies are coming forward now that want to speak, that have been with you, sharing information that you want to share with us?
The great thing about stone circles, whether it's Stonehenge or smaller ones such as Rollright, whilst they are definitely aligned and influenced to the moon in its various cycles, much longer cycles than just a monthly occurrence, or the sun, and indeed the stars, they retain their own power. So even though they're aligned and influenced by the moon, it's a bit like a sacred ceremonial area that isn't overly influenced. So whilst there could have been comets in the sky and fireworks of meteorites, a stone circle can retain its own power. So whilst it can be influenced, it's not directly influenced. We're directly influenced by some astrological aspects within our own chart. Stone circles stand outside of time. And I think we need that concept by standing outside the cycles of time. And that is what the ancients did by creating these circles. So there could be calamity, there could be chaos. And entering a stone circle allows you to be back in the center, your center. And that's the magic of stone circles. So I do understand that they are influenced by the sun and the moon, but I just think that's a very important concept. And it's a very powerful concept, so that when we go to Stonehenge, we can weave our own magic. When we go into it, we're not directly responsible just by what's going on, but we can weave that in as well. So these stone circles are circular spaces where they are the magical arena outside of time, but inclusive of time as well.
Wow. Yeah, it's absolutely shocking sometimes when you start to understand the depth of what's actually happening. It feels like we're coming out of being so dense, consciously, to realize that, stones have memory, stones have, crystal grids in them. Stones have their own auric fields. Stones can take on the masculine or feminine energy, depending on who worked with them, and then they act like both conduits and amplifiers. So this isn't anything that we were taught growing up in school, for sure.
Thankfully, I was taught that growing up by my late father,
Yeah.
especially how to program stone. But they're very good points and very relevant
Oops.
points.
One of
But
us,
but but again, when
one
we're
of us
around
disappeared. There we go.
standing stones, for example,
So the she'll be back in a second. Or I'll be back in a second. There she is. Okay. All right. We lost you right after your father. You know, he taught you.
sorry about that. Well, here we are again.
Yeah.
And when we look at stones, you've raised some really good points about stones. And one of the myths about Stonehenge, which I explored many years ago and have included in books and lectures, is from about the 1700s. For example, you had some very famous architects that were interested in Stonehenge, and they'd heard much older myths that one of the stones there in a very prominent position, one of the altar stones, was programmed as an oracle, a feminine oracle. So while we have one stone at the center that was masculine, you also have one that is feminine. And that oracle stone was said to literally speak, a bit like the stone of destiny in Ireland was said to roar with pleasure if the king of Ireland was selected, and the stone of destiny doth approve that. I think a very similar thing was going on at Stonehenge, and it was an oracle. And if you look back and back and back in time, it also says it's a healing center. So some of the experiences that we can have there, for example, are tuning into the oracle aspect of Stonehenge for divination purposes, and to sometimes even find our soul's divine purpose. And Stonehenge can awaken one's consciousness and align it to the soul's purpose, which I always find beautiful and sacred. And we can always go there for healing as well. And I can show the healing stones that were placed in particular energies to make them even more powerful. So, you know, that's the wonder of Stonehenge, and it's surrounded by unique barrows, hundreds and hundreds of barrows, some of which we can see, and some of which contained the high priestesses of Stonehenge, which I can point out when we're there. You know, the archaeologists back in the Victorian period, say about 200 years ago, focused on the males there, but the women were equally as powerful and retained their artifacts, beautiful jewelry, crystal healing bags, which were quite common in the Bronze Age. So all of this is connected. We're connected to the priestesshood. We're connected to their ancient ways. We're connected to the stones there. And we are connected, hopefully, to our soul's divine purpose as well. And it can just awaken at places like Stonehenge.
Yeah. Well, I love that they found all these things. It doesn't seem to be something that many people share, you know, that they found all these artifacts, all these feminine things. But it's interesting you said, like, they focused on the history of the men. And that's true most places I've been. That's true here, too. In the Maya land, you know, we are going in and going, oh, there were all these priestesses. Oh, there were all these queens. Oh, there were all these, you know, architects that were women. But they were erased too. It was a very, very definite thing across the planet, I think, for that. So exciting that in a way it sort of preserved some of this to be more pure now that it is coming forward. They didn't
Yes.
try to interpret it back then, you know?
Yes, and I think connecting back to the ancient past, whether it's the Neolithic or the Bronze Age or the later Druids there, is connecting back to our Celtic heritage to a time that was, and a time I believe will come again, because I think cycle is a time, and I think we can awaken to past life experiences as well at places like Stonehenge and Stony Littleton that we're going into. You mentioned earlier in your introduction, we're going to be crawling into a barrow. And for me, if somebody said, what's one of your favorite parts of the British Isles, it would be Stony Littleton Long Barrow. One, it's off the radar. So you don't get a lot of tourists there. You get a lot of tourists at places like Stonehenge and Avebury. Rightly so. They're magnetic and they're dynamic, and it's a wonder in itself. But we're going to go on our tour to places which are more peaceful, less known, and will allow us to do some very beautiful, deep energy work at these places as well, and to be undisturbed to some regard. And that's priceless. So we are going to go private access to Stonehenge. So we will have that moment in time with private access. And most people go around there in public access, where you're nowhere near the stones, nowhere near the stones. It's shocking. So we're going to have that as well. So I think we're going to have some really intimate, close-knit experiences at these amazing spiritual power places.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm so excited. To me, everything is sacred. Every day, every moment, every experience that comes up is something. And then it kind of, your ordinary world, whatever that is for you, kind of collapses, into these moments of this incredible sacred gathering and the people you're with, and getting to be with you and getting to be there under the full moon and all of that amazing things. So, well, tell us a little bit more about, we have the new moon, high moon, and the lunar eclipse on the 7th, when we will be at Stony Littleton and Stanton Drew, and any other energies around light, shadow, reflections, and things like that?
Yes, at Avebury, I discovered many years ago the shadow lines at places like Avebury and other places besides, because the ancients were influenced by the sun, but the angles, and when the sun sets or rise, does cast very long shadows. And for example, there was another researcher into this called Professor Terence Meadham, who looked at the shadow aspects, and I expanded upon that because I realized, because I live locally, that there was much more going on than just the simple shadow effects. So for example, there's a very tall stone, or was a tall stone, at Avebury. It stood 21 feet tall by 9 feet wide. It was huge, phallic, a masculine stone. In front of us, surrounded by a stone circle. So you've got a standing stone that's really tall inside of a circle of around 27 up to 30 stones. Nobody really knows how many were at Avebury. And at all of the sacred days of the Druid calendar, the wheel of the year, those 8 sacred days from the solstices to Beltane, on the dawn of that shadow of that masculine stone would hit and target one of the stones at sunrise and sunset, opening and closing the ceremonies, I believe. But I also noticed something far more dramatic. At the winter solstice, way over in the opposite side of the circle, known as the outer stone circle, I'm going to show you all of this. I'm going to show you Avebury like no other. On the outside of the circle, the shadow of that stone would hit the stone circle, where the shadow of that stone would hit the obelisk, and then a shadow of that stone would hit another stone and would reach the henge bank, creating a massive shadow line that stretches over 1,088 feet by placing one shadow upon another, upon another, upon another, a bit like dominoes going like this. That's what the shadowed line did. And I invited the then most beloved arch druid, the late Terry Dobney, to Avebury to witness it. And what we saw was incredible, because those shadows race towards you like a black line. So it can be quite quite dramatic. Then what I discovered at the entrance stones to Avebury, they're two huge entrance stones, one of which is called the Devil's Chair. It has nothing to do with the devil whatsoever. That's 16th century projection.
I love it.
Those two stones at Samhain, the November the 1st, Halloween to the Christians, and to other societies, it has a name. It's associated with the ancestors, Day of the Dead, and that type of thing. But on that day, and in bulk, February the 1st, because the sun's in the same position on those 2 days, those two shadows, again, co-join in their shadow line like this and spread a black line across the entrance. So I've done rituals and ceremonies there where, to the Celts, the 1st of November is our New Year's Day. It's our New Year. We don't do the civil year of January the 1st. And on that day, we can think about our past. What did happen in the past year? Did I have failures? Did I have fears? Did I have success? And whatever you want to leave behind, you can place it into the shadow and then literally step into the light of the new year. And that was a very popular rite that the local Druid community still continue with from time to time, depending who's there. We've just had a new archdruid inaugurated, so we'll have to wait and see. But nonetheless, the ancients incorporated this, and it meant a meaning to them. It was an activity. They only happen at certain times of the year.
Yeah, I'm never ending to be amazed at what the ancients did. Like here too, it's like we used to think, oh well, this sun comes through this one temple on the equinox, but there's like 10,000 other things it does too. Like you're talking about, there's shadows, there's moons, there's other times of the year. Of course, there's the earth energies underneath. They built it on to amplify it. There's the structure, the sacred geometry. There's this, it just goes on, and it boggles the mind to think about. We think, oh, we're so superior. They didn't have a computer or something, but we can't replicate this kind of thing. And I love that, because the shadow work is a kind of a topic now. Like it's been around for a while, but changing from shadow work. I don't want to look at my fears or my grief or my anger, but it's deeper than that, because when you're in, Wiccan or Druid or these ancient cultures, you respected everything equally, light and dark were both part of the whole, and they both had power, and they both held, healing and magic and whatever else. So, amazing.
But the great thing about doing anything, whether it's positive work or shadow work around certain standing stones, is I proved recently that particular megalithic energies, that's energies being released by the standing stone. If we just think of it in that simple term, it's easy to grasp. And then as you're doing this energy work, you're walking through certain Hertzian frequencies, and one of which is 133 Hertz, which is healing. So I've proved that you can put copper probes into the ground where I have doused and where I have felt the energies, and then you can start to see how the ancients could work with these energies. For example, one particular energy is really good for the opening of the throat chakra. So I certainly see the ancient priestesshood and priesthood speaking on that point. That's a point where, a bit like in a Christian church, you'd have the pulpit. This is a particular frequency that opens the throat chakra. So anybody that needs that energy work at a sacred site, we can take those people there. So there's something for everybody. And even if you just sat gazing around at the splendor of Avebury or Stonehenge, that is uplifting in itself. Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. Last year we stayed, I don't know, a little ways down the road from Avebury, from the Red Lion.
Yes.
And I get very excited when I get to stay on or near a sacred site. Because one, I know that if I'm sleeping that close, that those energies are there, that I could access them. But what I did was we went 2 nights, I think, after dark into the stones, so to get to have the experiences at day, at dawn, at night, there's a different frequency, there's a different energy coming from everything, the land, and depending on the moon too, of course, but yeah.
Oh, absolutely. And when the ancients at Avebury created the megalithic avenue called the West Kennet Stone Avenue, remarkably and astonishingly, it incorporated over 140 astronomical alignments. Okay. And again, I can show you stones that have niches and notches in the top of them where the moon would sit on or the sun would rise out of. So they sculptured some of those stones, and some at one point in the avenue were aligned to Sirius, which was Isis to the ancient Egyptians in her star celestial personification, for example. So we can see star energy woven into some aspects of these ancient sites as well, through the avenues, those ways that we would enter these sacred sites, the spirit pathways, as they're sometimes known as.
Yeah, talk more about those, because they're all around. There's avenues near most of these sites we talk about, and they connect each other. Or what is some of the energies about of what you believe their purpose was?
The avenues in where I live, where Avebury and Stonehenge is, were dramatically long, about 1.5 miles long, and I'll return to those. But just to show you the difference, if I was to travel more north in the country to the older stone circles, incidentally, like Castle Rigg, for example, they have very short entrances. So you might just get, 4 or so stones, same as Rollright in Oxfordshire, which is about 1.5 hours from Avebury. That's, again, what's called more of a Cumbrian avenue. So not all of them were dramatically long. So that's the first thing. They come in all shapes and sizes, so to speak. But the one at Avebury probably had 4 avenues, all associated with different types of earth energies and earth currents, for example, probably about 1.5 miles, 3 kilometers long. That's Avebury. The antiquarian, William Stukeley, only drew in most of his surveys 2 because he wanted it to be his serpent temple. And if you go on to the line, his is the most famous drawing, but we now know that's probably very inaccurate. Now, when we go to Stonehenge, we are informed that there was only one avenue, and it went past the heel stone, and it went for 1.5 miles, 3 kilometers, down to what's called West Amesbury, where there was another henge monument by the River Avon. So most avenues lead to rivers. So the water element is associated with it for reasons I can go into at a later date. But we're thinking of avenues right now. And so at Stonehenge, I'm fortunate enough to have inherited the legacies of master dowsers, and I have looked at those, and I realized that one master dowser called Guy Underwood included a lot of remnants lines. What's remnants lines? They're where people have walked and they create trails in the landscape and become quite confusing. And it was the master dowser Tom Graves that realized this was in occurrence with Underwood's work. So Underwood had made Stonehenge look kind of crazy because you've got all of the pathways. He had all of these remnants lines in. So I thought, well, I've studied with Tom Graves's work. I'll take all of the remnants lines out of Stonehenge, and what would I be left with? And so I did that, and it took a long time, incidentally. It's very tedious doing that. When you look at the surveys, you go, oh, Maria, you've got a lot of patience. And then I ended up with 3 avenues. not one, like we're told at Stonehenge. In fact, two mirror each other perfectly, like a mirror, if you placed it in between it. And there was one at the south. And I think the ones that mirrored it were for the priestesses and women, and one was for males. And you passed these sacred springs on your way. So they would have passed this, and then possibly they were used in cleansing rite, healing rites, to introduce yourself to the world's deep waters, for example. And they bubble out of the ground. Even today, one spring has survived near Stonehenge. So again, if you looked on the internet, it would tell you there's just one avenue at Stonehenge. And like I say, I believe that there were three. And the one in the south was used at a later date. The ones that mirror each other were probably Neolithic. And then later, a different culture came in, much taller and had more round-headed skulls, for example. The Neolithic was shorter with long skulls. And they changed the way you entered Stonehenge. So Stonehenge has changed over the era. And when you come with me to Stonehenge, I'll show you the stones that were pushed over by the round-headed people in the Bronze Age to create a new entrance into Stonehenge. Incidentally, University College London, UCL, under the directive of Mike Parker Pearson, also agrees with that. That was done in the Bronze Age, creating, like I said, a different way to enter the monument. So we're going to unfold this past and how different cultures, different eras of priestesses and priests utilized the energies of Stonehenge.
Yeah. And review again, like, what do you think phase one, what the original, it was a goddess temple and there was the henge around it, and you wouldn't be able to see it from far away. And, you've mentioned the different healing things. Do you have any other information or knowledge, or maybe information from your queen about what they did specifically?
Okay, so we're going to go back to Stonehenge before even phase one, which was the stone circle I've discussed of 56 blue stones. And if you go back even further in time, then there was constructs on the inside that were probably circular and square buildings. Yep. So the first phase isn't a stone circle at all. Same as Avebury. They're constructs. And I reconstructed those constructs for my film, The Secret History of Stonehenge. And American viewers can go on to Amazon and buy that. And then I take you inside of these monuments and you go around them in wonderful graphics, actually. And so I suggest that they were a healing temple long before any stone was raised at Stonehenge. And that's what the archaeologists don't talk about, because if they did talk about those early constructs, well, whoa, you have to push the timeline back.
Yeah.
And that becomes a challenge for some, not all archaeologists, because I know some very open-minded archaeologists, so I'm not tarring everybody with the same brush. But these constructs, they retained the center. They created the center of Stonehenge, and 1,000, 2,000 years later, they still retained that exactly the same central point to create the stone circles with. So the very first stages of Stonehenge were buildings. Yeah. And the intriguing thing is they had zigzag corridors. So if you were in one part of that inner building, as my graphics, well, not my graphics, they were done by a very professional team. So I'm not going to take credit for any of that. I couldn't draw that or animate that, I can assure you. But you would have gone down a zigzag corridor. So what were the ancients up to? You wouldn't be able to see what's in the other section. So I restored all of that. Then that was dismantled and a henge bank was built, then a ditch, and then a slighter out henge bank. And the ditch was on, the bank was on the inside of Stonehenge. At Avebury, it isn't. A henge is a ditch on the inside and a bank on the outside. So the most famous henge in the world, Stonehenge, isn't a henge at all, because it's got the ditch on the inside. That would have been about between 6 feet and 10 feet high, enclosing the original stone circle, which was a very large stone circle of 56 blue stones. That was then dismantled. There was something, again in the film, what I suggest was going on there was maybe an energetic overload. Maybe there was some kind of event that happened in the external world. But one thing I do know is they were uprooted. All of those stones were taken purposely out of the ground. And then the Stonehenge that we're all familiar with, that iconic image that we know, then that was constructed. So it has many different phases. And then the design of Stonehenge was tinkered with in various phases. It has 5 phases associated with it, with different cultures coming along and changing it. So what I do know is Stonehenge was never one permanent thing. The only time it had permanence about it was when it was first constructed by the long-headed people, and that was used for 500 years. And then changes started to happen to the iconic Stonehenge thereafter, over a period of about 1,000 years. But you know what? It's like it never even stopped there, because then other legends moved in with King Arthur. And Uther Pendragon, his father, is said to be buried there along his uncle Ambrosius Aurelianus. So it's even attracting now mythical kings, or actual kings as some would say. And Mike Pitts was doing an excavation. He's a very famous Stonehenge archaeologist and expert, very open-minded. He lives in my hometown. I've spoken with Mike Pitts, and he found a dark age
like
male. And the dark ages is exactly the same time as
Maria. We lost you for a second. He found a dark, and then you disappeared.
Oh, well, that's a good appropriate time to go down a black hole.
And then we'll come back.
Yeah. So, yes, the Dark Ages, what Mike Pitts discovered was a burial of somebody in the Dark Ages. And that's the exact era of King Arthur. So he purported and hypothesized that that burial could have indeed been a high king such as King Arthur, because at the time of King Arthur, you didn't have one king of Britain. Yeah, that was going to come much, much later with Aethelstan in the 10th century. He unified England. Yeah, but prior to that, you would have the King of Northumbria, the King of East Anglia. There were 7 sacred counties, each one that had its own king and leader. So could it be that King Arthur was buried at Stonehenge? Many places claim him, but the timeline fits. So the stories don't end in the Neolithic. They're even being woven now with people going to Stonehenge and making their own memories there, which the people on the tour will. You'll go away with your own memories, your own unique experiences, and that's the magic.
Yeah, absolutely. I was thinking about last year, we were there for the equinox. And you have to go with a lot of people, but you get to go inside like we're going to do, and you get to be inside of all of this. And we're going to do that again this year, because we'll be there still. And just being there, even with a lot of people singing, dancing, whatever they're doing, it has such a presence to it. And your presence is talking to it. You don't even know what parts of your energy field, your light body, what codes you're carrying, what parts of you are speaking to it. And you might not even in the moment know, like you said, because these places, they open doors, they reactivate memories, and they give you opportunities to raise your vibration and your consciousness. So it's just so delicious and so worth it to be there in person. And the energy work you can do at your home is wonderful, but there's nothing like leaving your house, getting out of your ordinary world, breaking your habit, being alone, not taking care of everybody else and the laundry, right? And then coming in here in this way, coming in a sacred way. So, all right. Anything else you want to share about that?
Well, another place that I think is really special that we will be visiting are the 3 stone circles that comprise Stanton Drew, the goddess temple. And as I've mentioned before, it aligns to the moon, the sun, and Venus as well. All of the feminine planets, there should be
The moon,
more.
the earth, moon, earth, and Venus.
And Venus, yeah. They're the feminine planets in the solar system. There should be more, in my opinion, but there you go. But they all come together at Stanton Drew, so we can go from one stone circle to another. And I think that many people really love Stanton Drew because, like I mentioned earlier, it's off the beaten track. It's not one of the widely known ones. Why, I don't know, but I'm glad in a way. It's the world's 2nd largest stone circle. So we'll be going to the first largest stone circle, which is Avebury, Henge, Outer Ring, and then we can experience Stanton Drew. And the stones are really powerful there. Why are they really powerful? Unlike many other stone circles and even aspects of pyramids in Egypt, they haven't been restored. They are in situ. So any stone that fell has fallen, but it hasn't been re-erected and set in concrete. It hasn't been restored. You can look around at certain pyramids, you can look around at certain buildings, and they've been restored with modern day materials and other things besides. But Stanton Drew, that's what I love about it. It's there and it has stood there for 4,500 years. And in the passing of time, it's still plugged into the exact energies that it was plugged into all of those times ago by the ancestors. Most of Avebury has been restored. Okay, so that is reset in concrete. That doesn't mean it's not powerful. It's powerful and it's beautiful. But when you experience the stones that have never been tampered with, you will feel the difference. And that's what you'll experience. You're going to be experiencing the power stones of place with Nan and I.
Yeah. And those are made out of pink crystal. I have to say that because that just lights up every vibration in my body. and one of the ladies said to me the same thing. Oh my gosh, when I just see those, a picture of those, I start to vibrate. And that's really neat because the Stony Little and Stanton Drew are actually on the peak of the full moon and the lunar eclipse. So, to be in that goddess temple, to go inside of it like this, and then to go to these 3 sacred goddess temple circles, imagine, I don't even know, have you done tests on what the eclipses do? I mean, they've got their own energy going on, but is there anything special that the eclipse activates?
As most Dowsers tested in England in 1999 when there was a total eclipse, very rare for the British Isles, incidentally. I was part of the research team with very famous Dowsers like Hamish Miller, the late Hamish Miller, my late father, and many others besides. And what we all noticed, as I think the ancients were fully aware of, all the earth energies go quiet. You can't douse them for a while, and then they reboot after a particular time. So it's the stillness, just like the birds stop singing and everything goes still. That's what the earth energies do. And the first phase of Stonehenge in that 56 blue stone circle surrounded by the large Henge Bank, according to Gerald Hawkins, it was an eclipse predicting computer. And Gerald Hawkins, and then after him, Sir Fred Hoyle, they looked into how you could predict eclipses with that. And I've got some fantastic footage on the film of Gerald Hawkins talking about the eclipse predicting aspect and the lunar eclipses that influence places like Stonehenge, for example.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Well, I can imagine that. And what I love is then if you think about that, when we start the day and whatever day and a half, I don't remember exactly what time the eclipse is going to happen. We will be in the, the energies of the full moon, the high moon, everything. But then we're going to have this stillness moment and we're going to be part of that reboot. And then everything we do after that is going to be like the reboot energies, the new energies that are coming up. I find that very significant.
Yeah, and also if you are in an ancient site, you get a kind of stronger earth current. If we just think about it like that, it all has fancy names, but I'm not going to say the names because you may as well just say the strongest lead current at a site. If you stand upon that one, then you really will feel it start to settle down. And if you know where that is, and then you could step from one side, you see what I mean, and see if you can feel a difference and feel the difference between the energies there, then I think you will be very, very surprised, because you do feel that moment, boom, boom, where it goes quiet. And I've experienced that on numerous occasions, and each time is magical in its own right.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we have a few spots left, so please reach out if you would like to join us. I highly recommend it. And the question is always well, is now the time? Now is the only time. And somebody was talking to them the other day, and I said, well, you can wait to see what else comes up, but in a year, in 6 months, by the end of the year, when we start the fire horse year, you're going to be a different person. We're moving very, very fast. The ancients understood this acceleration that was happening now. So this is going to be one of those things to harness this energy in a very profound way to for whatever is optimal for you. And then you're going to move into your life really and truly. And what's interesting is that the lunar eclipse, when we're there, is the opening of the portal, the two eclipses, right? And then the other one, I think 21st or 23rd, is the solar eclipse, right, on the new moon. And so we're going to be then walking inside of that portal between the two eclipses, during part of this. And the new moon, the end of August, is very interesting. The new moon, the end of August, and then the next new moon at the end of September, which will be the solar eclipse, is in is it Virgo? Virgo or Pisces, but Virgo, I think. And it's 0 in August, and it's 29 when we get to the next new moon. So those are the two critical numbers, the beginning and the end. So overriding all this energy we're having there, we have this new moon cycle taking us from 0 to 29 through something. There'll be some kind of profound completion. So this is another little energy you can tap into for what may shift in your life. You might be ready for that. Well, you start talking about the calendar, the aspect that these were calendars, predictors in one aspect. And, they were harnessing energy and they were healing temples and all these other things. But the idea, not that they didn't know what time to plant a seed, like we were told in school, they were so silly. They didn't even know how to, they had to have this huge temple to tell them that the spring came. I was like, I don't think so. But the same thing is true here, right? And so Maria is coming to Mexico. Yay! And this is your first time, right?
Very exciting, and more exciting because I've got such a lovely lady to take me round.
Yes. So we're really excited to share with you that in March, we will be together. We will be here. We will be sharing more with you on another show about that. But one of the things that's interesting is we're going to be going to, I think, 8 different sacred sites. And we're going to be going to Chichen Itza, the most famous one. And typically, it's full of people. And we like to do what you were talking about, like with Stanton Drew. We like to go to the temples that don't have a lot of tourists, that have that pure energy. There's all different kinds. And we'll be doing both. But the profound it's like going to Stonehenge, right? Like if you go to Chichen Itza, it is that like crowning. This is the Giza, pyramid thing. This is like going there. And the more that I learn about it, because we also have another special guest. So Miguel Angel, Mayan priest that I know and I've been studying with, I'm doing ceremony with on Monday for my trip. And he was the director at Chichen Itza for 4 years. So not only is he versed in the sacred language and understands the carvings and understands the true story of what this means. Nobody was sacrificing anybody. No one was cutting their heads off. No one was pulling their hearts out. And that was something the Aztecs were doing over there. So you're going to get to see that true inside thing. And we're going to get to do ceremony. He's going to take us to places that aren't open to the public to do ceremony before we enter some of these places. And when he was a director of Chichen Itza, they would close for the day and he could go anywhere he wanted. He could go in any temple. He told me one day that where I was like, did you go in here? He's like, yeah, I spent the night in that. And I was like, oh, it's just like, especially now, with the way things are very, very controlled.
Yes.
However, we're really blessed to be there on March 5th. Now, most people don't know about March 5th. Most people know about the equinoxes, of course. So this is the place you have the solar serpent, right, coming down. And it on the equinox, it forms 7 perfect white, light and dark triangles. And it looks like the serpent. It ends at this big carving of a serpent's head on the ground. And the tongue comes out and lays on the ground. And all of these things match into what Maria's been talking about, right? They was built on certain energies. There's a cenote, a cave with water under it. There's, all these different things happening. But he told me to go. So I went in March, and there's a thing most people never heard of. It's called the 33 Days of Kukulkan. Kukulkan is the name of the feathered serpent, and it's the representation of Christ. It's the representation of the Holy Spirit, of the Son, of pure love, unconditional love, and bringing you back your sacred knowledge. So that's what downloads into you as you're having this experience. And everybody thinks it only happens on the equinox. It happens for 33 days. So we will be there on the very first day. And I did that this year, and it was very profound. We will be there because there won't be a lot of people. There'll be just the normal amount of people because they don't know what's happening. And we'll be able to be right at the, wherever they have the gate now, the rope, but we'll be right at the bottom, and we'll be able to see these triangles forming, and we'll know what the sacred mantras are, which is what I learned from him. And we're going to be there receiving this entire thing. It's quite phenomenal. And starts out with 6 triangles, goes to 7 on the equinox, and ends with 8, which nobody knows. The sun is always on the head, and the energy comes out of the mouth and into you. And so he told me once he went and stuck his head in the side of the snake's mouth. There's nothing you and I would do.
I love that.
He said, I went one night and I stuck my head in there, and he goes, I didn't sleep for days. There was so much energy. I didn't sleep for days. So we can't do that. But we will be discovering. So depending on who signs up, always opens doors to magic. We will be going there. He will be taking us to certain sacred places that we know we're going to have the private tour with him. And we don't know what kind of magical doors will open. Many of my groups, we've shown up and they've said, would you like to go in the temple? And nobody can. And so we will have this really profound experience. But the idea of this calendar being so much more a place of initiation, a place of a stargate, and all of that. So talk a little bit about your wisdom that you want to share. I know you're not going to share all your secrets yet, but that you've been discovering.
Well, what I find about pyramids that are really fascinating, for example, is they're on unique points of power across the globe. So you can get, for example, if you looked into the wider picture of pyramids, then they form their own grid network. That's the first thing about a fundamental aspect of that. So, for example, when I looked into a particular Earth sequence on the Giza Plateau with the Great Pyramid, and you go exactly 180 degrees opposite, you come to a pyramid on another island, and then you can look round the other way and you will come to pyramids. And some of the Mexican pyramids, that if you did a mirror image of that on Mars, then you can see these pyramids are on Mars. Pyramids are indeed on Mars. I study with Richard Hoagland, and I'm on Richard Hoagland's shows about Mars and lunar stone circles. And so I think the fundamental principle is one pyramid does not just stand on its own. It's linked worldwide. So that's a very beautiful concept. So the ancients, we were talking about the layers of wisdom of the ancients. They were connecting Mexico to Egypt, to the other side of the world, to other places besides that had pyramid-like structures like Silbury Hill that we'll be seeing on our tour, linking in to the pyramids of Mexico, linking into the pyramids of Egypt. So we're going to see, when we are in Mexico, things more worldwide, as well as just in place, which I find quite exciting and quite fascinating. And I do think Mexico and Egypt were selected to be kind of built after the time of other planetary pyramids as well, if indeed that is correct, which I'm sure it is. So we're going to be exploring as well. We're going to be dowsing for particular types of energies by saying to ourselves, what's beneath the pyramids? What's beneath the pyramids? Nan is going to show us the ancient Mayan wisdom and her knowledge that is really deep about Mexico. And then I'm going to be having a look and exploring with you firsthand what is beneath the pyramids. And I'm really excited and feel blessed that I'll be working in Mexico with such a wonderful lady as dearest Nan.
Yeah, I love it here so much. I've been here 10 years. I thought I was going to stay for 2 months. And so, I can definitely tell you I'm not moving. I love to travel, but I'm not moving yet because the magic just keeps opening. And, they're finding more and more Mayan sites. And maybe not in the way we would like, but it feels like the gathering of the ancients, the prophecies of the ancients saying this is the time of the gathering of the wise ones. And that's us. We chose to be here to wake up. And so like many cultures, the Maya maybe had a little more, but like many cultures, their books were burned and their things were erased to a degree that really I didn't learn about them at all in my history books as a child. And now it's not just becoming to the awareness, but the consciousness is rising out of the stones. The pyramids are letting themselves be seen. Gaia is saying, okay, and they put in the Mayan train, and that's a big controversial thing, but they had to plow through the jungle. Well, every 5 feet, there's another pyramid, there's another structure, there's another thing, there's another cave, there's another thing. You can't go 10 feet around here. There's easily 4,500 pyramid sites just in the Yucatan. That doesn't include Honduras and Guatemala. So everything under here is water caves formed by the meteorite that killed the dinosaurs. Right. And then you have, how old really is it? And their tradition says that they came from Atlantis and Pleiades, but Thoth went to Egypt and started the civilization there with the Atlantean knowledge and put the things in the pyramid, so on. That's Itzamna here. And he came and did the same thing. And so the sites that we're going to see are known to the elders as being built on templates from Atlantis. From or Lemuria. They have many Lemurian sites as well, but it's not like it's a hidden thing, like maybe not. Someone said to me that, well, no one knows if Atlantis was real. And I said, well, that depends on who you talk to, So, but there's just the mystery is so deep and they're coming up. And yesterday I was talking with Miguel Angel, and they were talking about how one of the things they found digging up the cave, digging up the train, was caves that has pottery, painted pottery, like the Greek pottery, paintings on them, so that you're getting a whole new way to now tap into that wisdom, and all the priestesses that are on them and all these other things. And they found 10 new Mayan codexes. And so when and how we're going to see that, it's like Gaia is saying time to release this information, right? Time for people to see it and find it again. So we're going to be like a mystery mod squad going in Mayan mystery squad.
And the interesting thing on pottery worldwide, for example, you get very similar motifs. And quite a lot of the motifs can be related to the goddess, which Maria Gimbutas looked into. And also, as I know, earth energy patterns, they are mirror images of earth energy patterns as well, like a secret code within a code. Telling you, what's going on. And even in pottery, the different colors that they use, pottery experts believe that represents something. Because I had the good fortune of working with Lisa Brown at Oxford University, and she's the UK's expert on pottery.
Oh, wow. Very nice.
So we can explore the potteries. I mean, if you bring some kind of drawings or photocopies of them, we can start to decode them on a different level as well, and give a new interpretation about it that may not have been known. So it's exciting times when these things rise up out of the ground and are found. It's always the moment is now. The moment is for us. And so I think that's even more exciting and even more of a reason to whiz off to Mexico.
Yes, definitely. Not to mention that you're going to have some amazing Yucatecan food, exquisite food. And I'm going to go ahead and share my screen and see which one do I want to show you here. No, it's not there. Where'd it go? Okay, give me 1 minute. And we're going to explore some very unusual places, which is part of the fun, because you get to see this, epicness of what's happening at Chichen Itza. But then very nearby, we're going to go to a place hardly anybody's ever heard of. And it's called Yashuna, and it is the temple of the first moon. And so, like, the significance of what that means. And Miguel Angel told me, I was telling him, here's how I have the schedule. And he said, no, we have to go to the temple of the first moon first. Then we go to Chichen Itza. So, we will have this ability to follow a path and go along a current. Before that, we're going to be at the Sacred Feminine University in Uxmal, and at Kaaba with the temple with all the rain god masks. And we always have some incredibly epic experience where we're levitating or something happening there. And where else are we going? Itzamal, which it has 5 to 19 pyramids in the town that have been, the town was just built kind of on top and around it. I mean, people literally have pyramids in their backyards. And I'm completely enamored with this place because you can climb many of them. You can access many of them. And they built a convent over the main one, which is fairly common, but you can still see the pyramid on the backside of it. So, you have all of these things that are in plain sight, and yet you've got an ability to go with a new vision, with new wisdom rising up, and then your own spiritual purpose kind of saying, what's up? Why are you going here? What's calling you right now? And like I said, we're going, it's going to be March 1st to the 8th. And one of the reasons we picked that was to avoid the equinox and to go on this first day of the 33 days of Kukulkan. So when you go over to the page, you'll see some pictures. I'm going to be sharing a lot more pictures with you. I've got a gazillion pictures. And thank you to Chris for making us a little art there at the top. But I want you to look at this picture right here. This is my picture from March. And you can see the snake. You can see there's the big carved snake head at the bottom, Kukulkan. He's got his tongue coming down so that the energy goes into the earth. And here you see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So this is what we will see. This was probably the 5th of March. We will see those 6 triangles, and they form slowly from the top. And there's all kinds of other symbolism into the 9 layers being line waves of consciousness. The top of the pyramid is unity consciousness, like we're in now. It's the 9 months of gestation. It's so there's the sacred feminine encoded into it, and many other things. But it's a really profound, and it was very interesting because it was sitting right there in front of the head on the ground, very quietly, with all my little stuff around me, and I'm chanting the sacred chants slowly, and it takes about an hour, maybe an hour and a half for it to happen. And the guards don't like you doing any kind of they call it pre-Hispanic rituals, and music are not allowed on their own land. And nobody was noticing. People, all these tourists were walking by, and it's right there. And they're like, look at that, take a picture of me. Yeah, okay, let's have lunch. And I just watched how something like this, so profound that they're clearly getting a download because they're there, but they're not aware of it, is happening right in front of their eyes. And the guides are walking by, not even saying, hey, look. So that's one of the things. You'll have the option to go to the night show, which is pretty cool. I like to be on these sites at night or in any other way that we can. So that's Chichen Itza. We're also going to be going to Chichen Viejo, which is old Chichen Itza, and it's completely Atlantean. It has all the Atlantean carvings. It has a lot to do with Tantra and Kundalini and accessing the powers of that. And beautiful. Just it has a temple formed shaped like a turtle. It's just beautiful. So you've got me, Maria, and Miguel Angel, and we did a show with him recently. So make sure you check that out below. And then these are just a few. Give you a little taste, and we'll jump off now. This is Ekbalam, and Ekbalam means black star jaguar, and this is a jaguar temple partway up the pyramid complex, and it's one of the few places that still has the stucco carvings. One of the reasons is they buried it. This pyramid is enormous. They knew they were getting conquered, so they buried it.
Wow.
And that's why when they covered it, they found this carving. So you can see the jaguar teeth of the mouth going in. This was where the Balam was, the sacred Balam priesthood, and that's my lineage in sacred Maya. Is I'm a medicine woman of the jaguar, and you can see the angels up there, or guardians with the wings, and it's really quite incredible place to be, and we'll get to sit right in front of it. You can't go in there, but we'll sit in front of it and we'll do an activation. This is one of the temples at Uxmal. It's called the Pyramid of the Seer or Magician, but it is actually the Pyramid of the Moon, and it is right next to the Sacred Feminine University, and which we're resurrecting this year. And this is another picture of Chichen Itza. This is from the Temple of Venus, which is directly in front of it, facing the stairs that you experience, the equinox solar phenomenon. And this is in the Sacred University area of Uxmal. So there's just a few things there. That's Maria last year. And so come and join us and let us know if you have any questions and anything else you want to add.
Well, just how exciting to have this ancient wisdom, the presence of somebody that knows what temple to go into. Go to that one first. Go to this one. This is what I love, when you have people that are passionate about their culture, about the experiences, and doing it in the right order. Because if I had gone, or I'd gone on somebody else's tour, I may not have done it in the correct order. And this is where you guys come in, doing it in a beautiful, divine order. And that is special.
Yeah, it's going to be very special. Like I do everything in a sacred way. Like I'm going on a trip, so I'm going to the pyramid at 2 a.m. on Sunday to do a 4-hour ceremony for myself, and then I'm doing a ceremony with him before we go on the trip, and so on and so forth. But the idea of when I talk to him about the places he's going to come with us as Uxmal and Chichen Itza primarily, and I was like, so in the morning we'll get up and we can go, in Uxmal, and we talk about, because we both like to do ceremony before we go in, and we can't necessarily do it on the site. So he said, oh yes, but first we have to do ceremony. So I said, well, what do? We talk to the hotel, because the hotel's literally in front of the pyramid entrance, of the government entrance, and on the site, like there's pyramid stuff like right next to you. So we're going to stay at this gorgeous lodge right there in the jungle with this beautiful pool, and the chocolate museum down the road, which is really, it's a Dutch museum because they got their cacao here, and they've created this cultural park. They rescue jaguars. They have all this really beautiful. You can visit that as well. But he said, no. We're going to go up to a mountain. Don't think too tall, but I don't know what mountain. He goes, no, I know a sacred man who has a place at the top of a mountain, and we're going to go up there and do ceremony, and then we're going to enter Uxmal. So we're going to have just, and this is not something on any tourist menu. So not only being with Maria and I and at these places and with Miguel, but not put together like this, but also without that knowledge, and a smaller group too. So you're not going to be there with 100 people. For sure. So wonderful. Well, thank you so much. I'm so excited. I get to see you in a few weeks.
Yes.
In person. Good. So anything else before we close?
Well, I would just like to say happy travels when you go. I'll be seeing you soon. I hope to meet with your lovely group members, as I will, to go on another adventure around the ancient sites of Britain, to be led then by experts to Mexico. What's not to like?
Right. Exactly. All right. Thank you, everybody. Thank you so much. Allison, Susan was there last year. She said the night with Avebury Stones was a wonderful adventure. It really was. And I'm staying near there this time when I'm speaking at your conference. So I'm going to probably sneak over there at night too.
Enjoy.
Okay, everybody, thank you so much. Have a beautiful and blessed day. The new moon is coming next week, so check back. We'll be doing some magic around that, looking at some of the really 0 point energies of that. And go out, be a blessing, bring these beautiful energies with you. Even what we've just said, even the pictures we've shared, have a frequency, have a vibration that you can tune into, and ask it and give it permission to just go inside of you and bring you whatever it is that's optimal for you today. So thank you again, Maria. I love you dearly. And thank you, everybody. Take care.